Chapter 18, continuing, page 114 at the bottom. All the wolves were on their feet now, dark shapes against the sky. It was like that spring night so long ago, when Granite first encountered the pack. But this time there was no snowdrift to speak for him. It would do no good to run. Granite threw back his head and sent his friendliest greeting into the sky. First one, then another of the wolves answered him. They began to pace restlessly back and forth. Romer, Strider, and Breeze gathered around Ebony, yelping with excitement and nuzzling the big black wolf. Granite waited in mounting fear. Ebony stepped out of the circle and spoke. It was a deep, throaty howl that grew louder, turned into a bark that was almost a growl, then became a howl again. He bounded down from the promontory, leaping from rock to rock. When he reached level ground, he stood waiting for Granite. The wolf's legs were stiff, and his tail arched over his back. Granite dropped his tail and pulled back his ears. As the dog moved toward the pack leader, he bobbed his head, first moving it up and down, then from side to side. He tried desperately to show how sorry he was that he had run away from the pack. Still, a wolf's length from the leader, Granite stopped. Ebony walked to where Granite stood, cringing. The long-legged wolf loomed over the smaller dog, who was careful not to make a sound. Ebony stared at Granite for a long time. He seemed to be deciding what to do with the runaway. Granite turned his head and looked up at Ebony. An angry fire burned in the wolf's brown eyes. In the moment before Granite dropped his gaze, he felt that he was looking into a blazing sun. Granite's heart beat against his side like a trapped bird. He rolled onto his back and lifted his leg. Ebony growled. Granite's fear was so great that he could not move. He waited. The other wolves fell silent. They were waiting, too. Ebony lowered his great head until it was beside Granite's face. Then he opened his jaws. His long white teeth glistened in the moonlight. They closed on Granite's muzzle. It was not a hard bite. Ebony had decided to let the dog live. Until the air rushed out of Granite's chest, he did not know that he had been holding his breath. He licked Ebony's mouth and whined his thanks. Then he got to his feet, making certain that his tail stayed down. The pack was bound by Ebony's judgment. Whether they agreed with their leader made no difference. Forced to let Granite return to the pack, the wolves ran down to greet the dog. Growling and yapping, they shoved him around and nipped his nose, his shoulders, and his legs. Keeping his ears back and his tail low, Granite accepted the bites. None of them drew blood. They were the wolves' way of reminding Granite that he was still the lowest of the low. There was a sudden commotion, and a white body burst through the wolves, clustered around Granite. It was Snowdrift. As if he were still a small puppy, she cracked him with the side of her head. Granite's head rang with the force of the blow. He raised his front paw and licked at Snowdrift's muzzle. Her anger was gone. She had punished Granite for leaving and was ready to go on with their lives.